Morning, everyone.
Right, morning, everyone. So yeah, I was just testing to see if I could frustrate anybody this morning after yesterday's discussion by coming on at the last minute. So, uh, question is, what's the question? Are we thriving today, Lee? Are we thriving? Are we not thriving? Sounds like Stella, not Stella, sorry, Stella. It sounds like Cecile's having some excitement in her life. Keep the adrenaline flowing. Little orders like that doing interesting things. So yeah, lots of fun and games on the go. So, all right, Lee, over to you.
So the question is not so much are we thriving, but what does it take to help others to thrive? And so thinking about creating environments, or what is it that we can do, or what do people need in order to thrive? And there are three things that I've thought about. The one is the dark side is, why is it that people don't thrive, and therefore in order to help them to thrive we have to address this thing, because I think this is what is where people are most of the time, and if we can't get them out of this state, it's almost impossible to help them to thrive. And that is that fight flight mode, which comes out of fear and worry and anxiety. And 9 times out of 10, in my experience, it relates to money. And so that somehow needs to be addressed and helped and managed in some kind of way. So that's the one thing. The second thing is, I had an experience over a period of time of working with a group of bursary students. So there were different cohorts every year. We would get a group of bursary students who were sponsored by a big corporate to do an IT course. They were very bright. They had been selected from hundreds and hundreds of kids from around the country, but had all come from previously disadvantaged environments. I loved when Master was talking about the fact that he came from a deep rural environment. It was something that I heard often from the students that I was working with. They would tell me they were either from a rural environment, a deep rural environment, or a deep, deep rural environment. So there were grades to how deep the rural is. And so many of them all of them had never been to Johannesburg. Many of them had never been in the kind of traffic. They were living on their own for the first time. They were 18, 19-year-olds. Many of them they'd never cooked a meal for themselves. They had certainly never been to a supermarket or to shop for themselves. And I don't in the city environment. So I'm not saying that they lacked life skills for the environment they were in, but they were overwhelmed and over their head with the kinds of things that they had to deal with. And I realized it was more than just teaching them those things. That wasn't what actually they needed. They needed self-belief. They needed to know they could do this, that they had the courage, that as hard as it was, and many of them were afraid, many of them felt intimidated, overwhelmed. And my job was constantly to tell them, you guys are amazing. You look what you've done here. You've gone from here to here, constantly helping them to see that they were achieving and managing and growing, and that they had it within them, that there was this internal resource of resilience and strength and can do that was going to fit them for the rest of their lives. And so that's the second thing. And then the third thing is to start small. And I know it's a wisdom's principle, this 1, 2, 3. Trevor says he can only count to 3. And what I've realized is that one of the things that he's losing count as well, is that in order to thrive, sometimes we get bogged down with thinking we have to do so much. If you think about your health, oh, I've got to manage my diet and this exercise, and is it eggs? Am I allowed to eat eggs or butter or we get, it doesn't matter. Start with one thing, just one thing. Pick one thing out of the 50 things that are on your plate or that you think you have to do, or the goals or whatever. Start with one thing. And so those are the 3 things that I suggest as ways of thriving. So I'd love to hear your ideas.
Great, thanks, Lee. And I got way past 3 when you were talking there, so I don't know about the 1, 2, 3. But anyway, yeah, I think I'm going to go back to my deep rural environment and just hide after that. I'll just give up. Mpumelelo, let's talk to you first this morning.
Good morning. Lee has taken all of them, so I think this is it. We can call it a day. Shortest wisdom's morning meeting we've ever done. In agreement with you, Lee, I think self-belief is central. How do you build self-belief? Look, I haven't managed people in a long while, so I haven't had staff or people that report to me. So my closest example has been my children. So what I tend to do with them is to try and know them as much as possible, how they respond in different scenarios, what are the things that they find much easier to do because it's almost in their DNA and so forth. And then sort of validate them on those things or give them work in accordance to their abilities, because when you feel that you are able to do something, it builds that positivity in one's heart that, I'm able, I can. And the environment as well. Although I don't think the environment is central, the environment doesn't always have to be positive, but it helps when the environment is set up in a way that speaks to people's strengths or allow them to express themselves. Interestingly, with my boys, when they started out, they didn't go to the same school because I felt that the youngest one would not fit the way he was, his courage in the same school that the oldest one went to, and the oldest one fitted like a glove. And I think it's one of the best examples we've ever done. The way my youngest one came out, it showed that the environment we had put in was very much aligned to him. So central is self-belief. The many ways you can build that. To the environment does play a role. Thirdly, who you surround yourself with, I think also plays a big role. If you surround yourself with people that are like-minded, and in this case, probably I'll use the word positivity, I find that it builds the other one's positivity. When you see somebody do something and they went through difficulty in doing it, makes you feel like if they can do it, surely I'm also able to do it. So for me, it's those 3 things.
Great, thanks, Mpumelelo. It made me think a little bit about gardening. We were going to plant, fertilize, water, and nurture. Was it and get them to grow nicely? So yeah. Right, Jasper, you said you might need to pop out early, so let's get across to you next.
Hi. Yes, I think it's a topic that I like to talk about because that's effectively what we've also been busy with. And out of my experience, pretty much what Lee was referring to, it's people will only do what they believe they can do, and that comes from seeing someone else do. And for instance, like Mpumelelo was also using his boys as an example. My 2 boys are 2 years apart, but that 2 years different for the younger boy, he saw what the bigger boys were doing, and he tried to stay with them and be like them. And so he ended up being quite more sporty and athletic and stronger let's say they're the elder boy, because he was trying to fit in and compete with them. So that whole thing of giving people role models and examples. And then what I've learned over my many years in working with people and developing people organizations is that once you know what you want to show people what is possible, you need to build a system with rewards and punishments built into the system that makes it easy for people to follow steps 1, 2, 3, so that they don't have to understand the full picture, but as they achieve the next step, with that step is a bit of a reward, and that reward opens up your eyes to more possibilities and stuff like that. And in my case, I've also never traveled overseas or in aeroplanes until we got involved with the New Life company. But as we started to achieve things, we were allowed to, we then qualified to travel overseas. And as you travel overseas, your world opens up for other cultures, and you also see other people who achieve far more than you've done. And then it sets the bar higher, and then you aim for the higher bar. And whatever that system is, what you then develop must be well thought through so that it moves people along. Sorry, I just... it moves people along, and it must meet two things. It meets people at their level of readiness, and it meets people, and it must, on the one hand, accommodate the lowest or the slowest mover, but also not penalize people who want to move fast. So that's the challenge with a good system, that it meets people at its readiness and can accommodate the fastest mover. So I think with that said, I need to say goodbye because my guest has arrived. So I'll see you guys later.
Thanks, Jasper. Yeah, and your musical interlude stopped my mute button from working. Couldn't get myself back online. Right. So Ed, let's get across to you next.
Yeah, I loved this subject. It was buzzing around in my head all day yesterday and all through the night as well, actually. I could talk forever on it. But one thing that struck me first was, why do we want other people to thrive? What is it that makes us want to do that? And I think that would be worth a discussion at some other point in time. Then I thought, well, assuming we have a really good, valid reason to want people to thrive, something I learned about communication then comes in. And it's a weird phrase, but it says the meaning of the communication is the response it elicits. And that really puts you in the position of, if you want to communicate well, it's not good enough just putting it out there. You've got to think about how it's received. So if you want someone to thrive, it's no good just creating the conditions you think they will thrive in. They've got to actually thrive in it. And I thought of a couple of examples, and they're a bit to do with children. When I volunteer at this children's charity, we try and make an environment where these children who come from some really desperate circumstances can thrive, and also thrive when they go back into those bad circumstances. So we really care about them having a really good time, a really positive time. But we also make it okay for them to fail, and okay not to try, to take some of the pressure off. And I think sometimes that's important, that actually they don't have to succeed. It's okay to fail. It's okay not to do it. And I think picking up on what, and I can never say your name, and I stumble over the last bit, Palello, but never mind. I will keep practicing. You know,
Marshmallow, Edward.
Marshmallow, okay. And I think, you know, with children, it is actually finding what's unique to them, isn't it? And what circumstances fit them, and it's not one size fits all. And I kind of disagree a little bit with what Jasper said about examples. A very good friend of mine, Mimi Anderson, She's the first lady to ever do a double comrades. She ran from the finish to the start and then did the race. And that's one of her lesser achievements. Now, for a lot of people, she is not motivational because she set that bar so high, people can't achieve it. There's another runner, a lady called Lisa Jackson, who originally from South Africa. Her claim to fame is she's come last in 25 marathons. And she's written a book just like Mimi. She does motivational speaking just like Mimi. And she encourages more people to achieve stuff than Mimi does because the bar's a bit lower. And the final thing I say was about identifying what holds people back. And here I'm going to really disagree with Lee, and I don't mind disagreeing with Lee because she disagreed with herself. She started off saying 9 out of 10 times money is the problem. And then she set out loads of different problems that were nothing to do with money. I was helping at a children's place. There was a girl there, kept her hood up, didn't engage. We were making pizzas. She was sort of sitting back from the table, not engaging. And then someone almost dropped some flour on her trousers. And I saw the fear in her eyes. She was really frightened. And I had a little chat with her and I said to her, look, don't worry, we've got washing machines here. We've got really good dryers. We can get your clothes nice and clean before you go back. When you go back, they will be as new. And with a bit more encouragement, she started making the pizzas. It got awfully messy, flour got everywhere. And she didn't engage because she was worried about getting her clothes dirty and getting in trouble when she went home. As soon as we solved that problem, we solved everything else. So I think it's finding out what's holding people back, and it is unique to that particular person. Sometimes you're going to have to just do a general thing because you want to get as many people as possible. Sometimes you really have to home into the individual. So I could talk all day on it, and I've got lots more things to say, but we're running out of time, so everyone else will have a chance now. But yeah, thanks for that.
Great, thanks, Ed. And you do realize by disagreeing with the boss, you're now banned from the forum for the rest of your life. Yeah, we always tell people what they have to think. No, we don't do that. No, we don't do that at all. So, Stella, let's get across to you next.
Morning, everyone. So I was thinking about thriving. So if you think about the plant, a different plant to grow and to thrive, it depends on the type of plant. Flowery type of plant needs a lot of attention every day, maybe water every second day. But then a succulent doesn't need a lot of water and attention. Like the other day, I realized I killed one of my succulents because I gave them too much water. And you think more water is good, but it's not good for everyone. Oh, lovely, Ed. I love my succulents. So I think that for me, I think one should apply that to people as well. Look at the individual. What is the needs of the individual? Because not everybody type of love and attention or whatever. I was thinking about in February 2017, I met a wonderful person. He came into my life when 2 weeks before my divorce was finalized. And I think God has put us together at that time of our lives where he was able to support me through a difficult time, and I was able to support him. Because at the time his daughter was 14 years old, and he's been divorced at that time in 2017 for about 4 years, and the daughter didn't want to have anything to do with him, and it really broke his heart because he was such a good father to the child. But then from the divorce, the mother poisoned the child against him. And I said to him, you know what, she will remember, it will come back, all those hours and hours of loving time that you spent with her when she was little, it will come back to her. but you must just let her know that you're there for her now. Give her love. Even if she's nasty to you, just give her love back and let her know that you're there for her. And that is what he did. And now 4 years later, that child is now staying with him. She's no longer staying with the mother. And that relationship has just turned around. But that child has also turned around. She is from when I met her in 2017 to now, she's now 17 years old. She is a different child, so loving, and I think it's just the way that he handled her and coming out of that negative environment with the mother, and she needed that reassurance of the love from her dad that she thrived on when she was little. So yeah, I think it depends a lot on the individual. I think of my children as well. The two of them are so completely different, where my daughter needed reassurance all the time, and my son didn't. He required other attention, not in like telling him I love you. It was more in showing affection to him. So yeah, that's my bit for today.
Great, thanks, Stella. And we can see the great consultant and then mediator coming out in you there. I think sounds like you did some great work there. So well done. So let's get across to a different kind of plant. Trevor.
Oh, technology. Yeah, interesting subject. I think. I keep on thinking of this concept of when the student is ready, the teacher will arrive. And I think that plays a lot in the game, that the individual, this concept of thrive is a little bit more than survive. And it tends to push me to the point of how do you help an individual sort of excel more than anyone else. And I love the nature metaphor of Stella's there, because it's different things to different people. And then it started getting me thinking of, well, how do forests thrive? So you've got deserts and you've got tropical areas all around. So it's probably about immersion. In the tropical areas, you've got tons of water all over the place, and these plants actually thrive. And in the desert areas, there's not enough water, so you don't get those plants. So perhaps the other thing that goes through my head is that how do I help individuals thrive? I don't. I have this thing of just do, and other people, it's like the flu, for goodness sake. They'll catch it or they won't. And you don't know who you're actually dealing with. I take my hat off to those people like Ed, who will look at a group of people and say, you know what, regardless, there's a cactus over there, there's a high-growing tree over there, and he, from what I can get, he will look to help nurture those individuals around. I think it's different strokes for different folks, and we're all different. And hopefully a group like this, we can have 100 of us with different ways of being role models to other individuals. And when they don't like Ed, just like myself, and they don't want to become accountants, they will probably just move off towards Stella, and then they will become accountants because she's a likable individual. So different strokes for different folks. What else did I write down here? Yeah, I think it's about environment. I think what we actually have to do is be damn good role models and consider what it is that we're doing, and perhaps create an environment for people and then realize different people will react differently to those environments. And you might have to introduce other people like an Ed, like a Stella, like an Marshmallow, Mpumelelo. I've got your name there. You want different people who are different role models that people can attach to. And the point that I really want to make here is, I don't know each of you. There are some great points about you, but there might be, just like Ivan, there might be some deep, dark sides that we actually don't want to role model here. So I think each of us have got great points, and each of us have perhaps got things that we really don't want our kids to actually follow their examples or our examples. And you pick and choose from a smorgasbord of people who can actually influence you, and hopefully you pick 1, 2, 3 great characteristics that helps you thrive. So that's me.
I don't know if I should say thanks, Trevor, but yeah, that was Trevor. So yeah, and as Lee says, even the most difficult people are your teachers. Well, yeah, I think I've learned that one over the last 20 years. So
yeah, Stella.
Cecile, let's get across to you next.
Okay, guys, sorry, these are all these things distracting this morning, but I'm listening carefully to all of you, and it's nice discussion. I haven't got much to say because I can't really get my thoughts 1, 2, 3. But when I help someone, I like to encourage them all along the way with small little steps. Just for instance, when you are helping a child doing new karate steps, whatever. So I talk all the time, and a lot of people don't like being talked to all the time when they're learning things. So yeah, so that probably doesn't work for them. And when it comes to role models, I think, I'm not sure if people like following me as a role model because I'm a bit brash and fast, and I for slower and gentler people, they probably think, oh no, this one is overwhelming. So I'm not sure about that, but I'm loving the discussion. So yeah, so I will say very little this morning.
Thanks, Cecile. All right, Nazipo, let's come across to you next. Nazipo, are you there? See, you've unmuted your mic, but we're not hearing you. Seems like Nazipo might be having a challenge with her sound there. So let's go across to Donovan and see if Nazipo can get her sound coming right.
Morning, everyone.
And Donovan, your sound's a bit soft as well, so yeah, you're gonna have to speak up for us.
Okay. Just into my video. Morning, everyone. I hope I got the topic right for this morning. I used to be a head of department at a former company, and my 2 subordinates, they were quite junior to me, so I realized I was quite responsible for them. So I soon had to decide which way how to manage them. So I decided from there to rather expose them to bigger responsibilities so that I don't have to be too close to them, looking after them, checking them, etc. So I exposed them to the bigger picture so that they ended up, developing themselves and thriving that way. So I gave them the opportunity to be more responsible and to be more independent. And I think that's how I help them to thrive. Thank you.
Thanks, thanks, Donovan. Right, Master, let's come across to you.
Yeah, thanks. I did not run away after the 2 days of an encounter, which was a very good encounter, I must say. You mustn't think there was a little bit of offense. I did not take any offense. I felt very, very good. It's just that I was in Bloemfontein And then, yeah, so I could not join for the past 2 days. But yeah, I got in today at a very serious topic. Serious in the sense that, you know, at times when you can even be afraid to thrive, because at times when you when you start thriving, it's like when you attract more and more negative things to you know, to discourage you from your path of thrive. On 2 or 3 occasions when I was thinking I am thriving and having people around me who helped me to thrive, I would meet this negativity that would sort of like discourage me to thrive. But gradually I'm outgrowing that vulnerability of being discouraged to thrive. I think myself and Stella share quite a number of common things. When I was, when I met my unfortunate situation of divorce, it was at the peak of my thrive, when I was thinking, you know, I'm getting everything else in order. And at that particular time, I also met a lady. I thought maybe Stella would say she would invite us soon to the wedding, but I can feel that it was almost like mine. This lady who had also experienced divorce, she helped me through, and in that way I could not suspend the pain, but feel the pain and thrive in my social life and be able to maintain my stability in terms of how I communicate with people, in terms of how I relate with people, and put this thing at the backside and maintain that thriving spirit. So you have this person that would deny some of the things, some of the characters that you think he will just ignite, feel good again. And in that way, you thrive through, even in painful environments. Like I said, I mean, most of the people talks of an environment that is created for one to thrive, whether you are a lily or a rose, you've got different things that you need to thrive. Whether you need lots of water and a lot of fertilizers. But yeah, I think we must always have this in mind, that whether by people mere looking at you and thriving, or you saying a word to them to thrive, we must always look for an opportunity to either influence one of those platforms that says to you, you know, I can still make it, I can thrive in life, even through difficulties and stuff like that. So thriving should not be, in actual fact, something that is hampered by, because it's, for me, it comes from within. Yeah.
Thanks, Master. Right, Nazipa, let's try and get back to you and see if you can, if we can hear you. But if not, we can have a look at your comments there and discuss them. Right. Seems like we're not hearing you, unfortunately. Okay, so I'm sure everyone's read Nazipa's comment. So she talks about mindset, which I think, yeah, is obviously a very critical element. The question is, can you change somebody's mindset, or can somebody only change their own mindset? I mean, you can try and provide the right environment to help them change their mindset, but at the end of the day, you know, they've got to take personal responsibility. I think for me, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, is enabling people in an environment where they can take personal responsibility. You know, I saw it working with my daughter who had Down syndrome, and in that environment at their school, you know, too often the parents would take away responsibility. They would try and protect, and by protecting, they would disempower. And I think it's one of the big challenges, is that if you do that, if you don't give people the opportunity to take responsibility and accountability in the right kind of environment, we've spoken about environment, you know, you disempower them completely. if you go over the top with it, then you disempower them on the other side. So it's finding that balance in the middle. But you know, I found, especially with my daughter, she absolutely loved responsibility. You know, she really thrived when she got given responsibility and accountability, and loved to take leadership roles even within her own capacity, and that's when she really blossomed. And I think for me that just it's just a way, you know, that reflects, you know, if you can find that person within the person, as it were, and give them those elements that you know, that allow them to thrive and take responsibility for, that's when they really start to grow. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. So Lee, I think over to you to wrap up for the day.
Oh, Trevor. There's just a little story that is prompted by what Ivan and others have been saying, and it's my daughter, my youngest daughter, also a swimmer, Nozipho. She loved the water, and her safe place was swimming and being in the water. But when she was little, she could only been about maybe 5. And it came to the first time for her to, at a school gala, to swim the width of the pool, which she'd never done before. And she was terrified. And I always find it interesting in schools anyway, that they get the little ones to go first. And you know, they haven't seen how it works. They don't know that they can do it, but they must go first. Anyway, and as a mom, I realized I had a choice in this moment in time to say to her, you don't have to do it. It's okay. There's no requirement. You're still going to be loved. You're still going to, everything's fine. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. And to take the pressure off at that moment in time, and wait for maybe when she felt better, or there was another moment in time. Or I had the choice to say, I know it's scary, it looks like it's hard, but I know you can do it. You've done the swimming lessons, you've got so far, and if you stop halfway, that's fine. You just put your foot down, you'll be okay. And I've realized that has become a metaphor for many, many moments of, and at different times in my life with my children and with my students, I've chosen a different strategy. And I think is only based maybe on intuition, or maybe how I was feeling. I don't know. All I know is that there's often that choice in terms of what are you doing in that moment to help somebody do something beyond what they think they can do. And that's one of the ways that I interpret thriving. So I'm using my opportunity to wrap up to say more. So sorry about that. Oh, lovely. Is that your daughter? Ah, that's stunning. I love that, Ivan. Thank you. So I want to pick up Edward's question around why do we want people to thrive? Because I think it helps us to take it the next, you know, we started with ourselves, then we looked at this next group of people, you know, how do we help them to thrive? But if we address the question, why do we want people to thrive? I think we can start looking at, so what are some of the social benefits, or what are the community opportunities that we're creating? What are some of the cultural impacts of creating environments for people to thrive? So let's talk about that on Monday. Why do we want people to thrive?
Great, thanks, Lee. Go and have a great weekend, everyone. Thrive, help people thrive. Plant your seeds, water them properly, nurture them, do whatever it needs. Make sure the environment's right, because don't plant your banana trees in the desert, they won't work. But otherwise, have a great weekend. We'll see you all on Monday, folks. Cheers now.
Cheers.